Welcome to the weekly market wrap-up. I'm Hannah Bernard. Stocks fell Thursday as investors continue to worry about rising global tensions despite reports of an improving U.S. economy. Talk of possible U.S. airstrikes in Iraq and a massive failure at a Canadian mine have only added to what was already a choppy week on the markets. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get to it. All three major U.S. indices took a hit this week, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average receiving the brunt of it, tumbling another 75 points on Thursday to close at 16,368. The S&P 500 also continued its slide Thursday, dropping over 10 points to close at 1,909. And the Nasdaq had a real roller coaster ride this week, closing down 20 points Thursday to 4,334. Canadian markets had a rough ride this week as weak economic data from China raised fears of a slowdown in the world's second largest economy, which weighed heavy on shares of natural resource producers. The Toronto Stock Exchange struggled all week and took a major dip on Thursday, sliding 83 points to close at 15,118. The TSX Venture Exchange, however, turned in a better day Thursday, inching up about 3.91 points to close at 995. Disaster this week for the Vancouver-based mining company Imperial Metals Corp. The Canadian copper and gold producer suffered a massive breach of a storage tailings pond at its Mount Polley mine in central British Columbia. On Monday, the earthen dam, which was containing the mine wastewater, failed, releasing 10 billion liters of water and 4.5 million cubic meters of metals-laden fine sand, contaminating several lakes, creeks, and rivers in the Cariboo region. The damage to the surrounding area appears substantial, and local residents have been ordered not to drink the water. Canadian markets were closed Monday, so Imperial's stock was hammered on Tuesday, dropping at one point nearly 46% to close the day down 40% at $9.98. The Bank of Montreal says the company can expect to be on the hook for about $400 million, about half of that going to the cleanup and the other half going to damages likely to be paid out to the affected local communities. All right, let's turn now to winners and losers and our picks for the week. The winner for this week is Tim Hortons Inc. with ticker symbol THI. Shares of the Canada-based company jumped nearly 8% on Wednesday after reporting a Q2 earnings increase, delivering an EPS of 92 cents compared to 81 cents in the prior year quarter. Revenue grew to $874 million from $800 million for the same period last year, with same-store sales growing 2.6% in Canada and 5.6% in the United States. Tim Hortons is the largest QSR chain in Canada, specializing in always fresh coffee, baked goods, and home-styled lunches. The company says strong operating performance and an expanded share repurchase program are responsible for the earnings gain. The loser for this week is Walgreen Co., ticker symbol WAG. Shares of Walgreen tumbled over 14% on Wednesday as investors punished the company for refusing to deploy the inversion tactic, which would have cut its U.S. tax liability through a reorganization of its overseas operations. Walgreens is the largest drugstore chain in the United States with over 8,000 stores and $72 billion in annual sales. The company bailed on the inversion because it receives part of its revenue through government-funded programs that help cover the poor and the elderly. Well, those are our winners and losers for this week, and now it's time to check in on the gains that you could have locked in by following the weekly watch list from Robert James and Viral Stocks. That's enough about this week. Now let's turn to BayStreet.ca's look at the week ahead and the snapshot of what analysts are forecasting for companies whose earning reports are coming out next week. Here are 3 U.S. stocks to watch. First up on Monday is GoGo Inc. with an EPS forecast for a loss of 22 cents compared to a loss of 23 cents in the prior year quarter. The Illinois-based GoGo announced in July it had scored a coup as Japan Airlines made the company's in-flight internet service available on its flights. Next up on Wednesday is Canadian Solar Inc., which trades on the NASDAQ with an EPS forecast for 57 cents compared to a loss of 29 cents in the prior year quarter. And finally on Friday is Estee Lauder Cosmetics Inc. with an EPS forecast of 56 cents compared to 24 cents in the prior year quarter. And now here are 3 Canadian stocks to watch next week. First up on Monday is Tahoe Resources Inc. with an EPS forecast of 22 cents compared to a loss of 11 cents in the prior year quarter. Next up on Tuesday is Silver Wheaton Corp. with an EPS forecast of 20 cents compared to 21 cents in the prior year quarter. And finally on Friday is Turquoise Hill Resources Ltd. with an EPS forecast of break even compared to a loss of 10 cents in the prior year quarter. In late July, the company announced the sale of its 29.5% stake in Mongolia-based South Gobi Resources. And that wraps it up. Thanks again so much for joining us for another weekly market wrap-up. Before you head out for the weekend, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel or podcast on iTunes and find us on Facebook and on Twitter. For Royal Network News and BayStreet.ca, I'm Hannah Bernard.